Rejected Moon, Episode 8, The Answering. Written by Mia. They came with the dawn, the way the worst things do, and the last free city in the world met them with everything it had, which was not going to be enough, and everyone on both sides knew it. I stood on the high wall beside Ronan and watched the Iron Grey come up out of the eastern dark in a tide, Argents in their bone-colored ranks, and behind and around them the leashed packs, Alphas the Council owned marching wolves the Council had frightened, a whole world's worth of the small, and the cowed turned into a hammer. Nitrich's archers loosed. The first ranks fell, and the tide came on over them without slowing, because that is the arithmetic of an army against a city. The city has walls, and the army has more. By the time the sun cleared the ridge, they were at the gates, and the gates were holding, and holding is just falling slowly. I watched a city I'd known for a week spend itself to buy minutes. The free people of Nitrich were not soldiers the way the Argents were soldiers. They were weavers and lamp keepers, and the woman who had touched my hem and wept, but they fought like people who knew exactly what they were defending, which the Iron Grey did not, and that bought them something for a while. I saw the boy I'd healed, barely mended, loosing arrows from a tower with his jaw set. I saw the speaker standing in the high court with her stick, not hiding, ready to die in the open like the witness she had been her whole long life. They were going to lose, all of them, these people who'd wept the only tears anyone had ever shed for what I was, and they were going to lose because the thing the council wanted was standing on the wall in a borrowed dress, refusing to spend itself, keeping its hands clean while better people bled. And at the front of it all, on a gray horse, the warden, healed enough to ride, iron calm again, and chained to a post in a cart behind, bloodied, upright, refusing to kneel even now, Kale. I felt him see me on the wall. Across all that distance and slaughter, I felt the cut bond that wasn't supposed to exist anymore pull tight, and Kale Greywater lifted his ruined head and found me, and he did the bravest and cruelest thing anyone did that whole red morning. He shook his head.
No, don't.
Let me burn. The warden, beside him, smiled up at the wall and spread one pale hand at the breaking gate. The dying archers, the boy in chains, all of this Moonborn, or all of you. Your choice. I've made it very simple, and I understood that the council had read me better than anyone who'd ever claimed to love me, because they had not tried to break me. They had simply arranged the world so that being myself would do it for them. Wren. Ronan's hand found mine on the cold stone. He didn't tell me what to do. He'd promised he wouldn't, but his voice was rough. Whatever you choose. I'm holding the wall in front of it. I know, I said. And I climbed up onto the parapet of the last free city in a dead woman's gray dress, with my mother's bitten moon at my throat, and I made the choice the speaker had spent a week making sure I would make knowing, and it turned out when it came to be the easiest choice I had ever made, and that was the most frightening thing of all. I would not watch another person burn so that I could stay small and safe and innocent. I had done 19 years of small. I was done. Cover your eyes, I said to Ronan, to the city, to the morning. And I jumped. I had never shifted. There had never been room in Greywater for the Omega's small shadow wolf to come out. I'd kept her folded down my whole life, the way I'd kept everything down. So I did not know, falling from the wall toward an army, what was in me waiting to be let out. It was not a wolf, or it was the way the sun is a fire. It was what wolves are for. I came apart and came back together between the parapet and the ground, and what landed in front of the gates of Nitrich was vast and silver white and made of the same cold light I'd been holding in my cupped hands all week, a thing the size of the carts they'd chained Kale to moon-made flesh, And when I threw back my head and the howl came out, it was the bell, but I was not ringing it from a distance anymore. I was the bell.
And I rang.
The light went out of me the way it had in the circle at Greywater, but I was not a frightened girl on her knees now. I was 19 years of being told I was nothing, and 1 week of being told I was everything, and I had decided to be neither, to be, for one burning morning, simply enough. The wave of it rolled out across the field, and the iron-gray ranks went down before it like wheat, not dead, just unmade, their weapons gone soft, their borrowed courage gone, the leashed packs feeling the leashes burn off them all at once and bolting free in every direction. I walked through an army, and it cannot touch me. I want to tell you it felt like power.
It didn't.
It felt like honesty. For 19 years, I had been folding myself smaller than I was, apologizing with my whole body for the space I took up, and now, for the first time, I was exactly my own size, no more and no less. And my own size turned out to be enormous, turned out to be the very thing 100 years of cruelty had been built to prevent. The relief of it, the pure animal relief of finally being as large as I actually was so total that I understood in that moment exactly how the Moonborn had died. Every one of them, across the centuries. Not killed, exactly, but unfolded once too often, too gladly, until there was nothing left to fold back up. It is the most dangerous feeling in the world, being your full size. No wonder they taught us to fear it. No wonder they fed a hungry 9-year-old just enough biscuits to keep him small. The whole frightened world ran on one quiet rule, and I broke it walking through that army. Stay smaller than you are, and you'll be allowed to live. I reached the cart. I took the chains off Cale Greywater with a thought, the iron running like water, and I caught him as he fell, this man who'd thrown me away and held the line at a boundary path and held at me to let him die, and I set him down gentle behind me in the lee of my own impossible body, and I turned to the warden, who had not run, who sat his gray horse in the ruin of his army, and looked at me with something that was almost, finally, peace. "There she is," the warden said softly, the way Ronan had once said it, the way men kept saying it about me as though I'd been somewhere. "There's the Moonborn. 100 years we waited for you to finally stand up." And the warden smiled, and it was not a smile of defeat, and the cold finger of dread that ran up my vast silver spine told me, half a heartbeat before it happened, that I had got the whole shape of it wrong. "You think we were the villains," the warden said, swinging down off the horse to stand, small and unarmed, before a creature that could have unmade them with a breath. They were not afraid. That was the thing. They had stopped being afraid. You think the Argent Council hunted your kind out of cruelty and burned the free cities out of greed.
Child.
We hunted you because this. They gestured at the ringing dawn, the unmade army, the light still pouring off me. Every time one of you stands up and burns this bright, it hears. We are not the wall's enemy, Moonborn. We are the wall, cruel and cold, and willing to drown one gallery keeper or one whole city to keep a single Moonborn from ever burning loud enough to wake what sleeps under the world. And you've just, the warden almost laughed, you've just rung the loudest bell in 100 years to save a boy and a city, exactly as I arranged. Thank you. Truly. The wall's been so tired. Let someone else hold it for a while. And the morning went wrong. I felt it before I saw it. The way you feel a held breath in a house. The light still pouring off me guttered. Not because I'd stopped, but because something was drinking it. The 2 council dead from Greywater Hollow. A week dead, carried at the front of the column for exactly this. They stood up. Not raised. Not living. Severed. The bond between them and the moon that makes a wolf simply gone. Cut. leaving the body walking and the eyes gone flat and silver dark and empty, hollow things wearing wolf shapes, turning toward the source of the light with a hunger that had no bottom. And behind them, far out past the ridge, under the ground, under everything, something the size of the end of the world shifted in its long sleep and began, slowly, terribly, for the first time in 100 years, to wake. And I felt it know me, the way you feel a god turn its attention on you, and the speaker's voice was in my memory. There is exactly one bloodline it has ever been afraid of, and you are the last frightened drop of it. The warden knelt down in the dirt, then, calm as a clerk closing a file, and bared their throat to the rising dead, and the last thing they said was almost kind. "Run, little moon-born," the warden said. "Run to your king and your alpha and your free city, and have your war and your love, whichever of them you choose. You've earned this morning, but know what you traded for it. We spent 200 years and 1,000 cruelties keeping that thing asleep, and you woke it in a quarter of an hour because you couldn't watch one boy burn. The first of the severed reached them. I'd have made the same choice at your age. That's the tragedy of your bloodline. You were always going to be too good to be the wall. I killed the two severed. I had to. They came for the light still bleeding off me, and they were already dead, and there was a mercy in it I have never since been able to feel as mercy. The light unmade them the way it had unmade the army, and they fell and did not rise, and I told myself that was the end of it, that the warden had been raving, that the thing past the ridge was only a story invented to frighten a tired council into its cruelties. I told myself that for exactly as long as it took the wind to change. And then it came. Not a sound, not a smell, but a pressure. A vast cold attention settling over the whole valley like a hand lowering over a candle, and every living wolf on that field, Argent and Nightreach and Freedpack alike, went flat to the ground and whimpered as one. 2 centuries of enmity forgotten in the face of a single thing older than all of it. It had felt me ring, and it was not going back to sleep. The warden had been right about everything, including the one part one most needed to be a lie. I had been too good to be the wall, and the wall was the only thing that had ever held. I shifted back on the field of my own impossible victory, naked and shaking and a girl again, and Kale's arms came around me from one side and Ronan was suddenly there on the other, the king who'd come down off the wall through a broken army to reach me. The two of them, the man who'd rejected me and the man who'd knelt on either side of me at last, and neither of them looking at each other, both of them looking out east, at the thing standing up in the dawn.
The free city was saved.
The army was unmade. Kale was free, his hand gripping mine like he'd never let the morning take it back. Ronan was alive, his arm around my waist holding me up. I had everything, in that instant, that the frightened girl in the croft had never dared to want. Power and a place, and not one but 2 men who'd crossed the world for me, and a city of people weeping my name in gratitude on the walls above. And out past the ridge, the end of everything was opening its eyes, and it knew my name now too, and there was no wall left between it and the world except a half-trained girl who'd just learned exactly how loud she could ring. The speaker reached us, white-faced, leaning on her stick, and she looked east, and she said the thing none of us wanted true. It's awake. After 100 years. It's awake, and it's hungry, and it's coming, and there is only one thing in all the world it has ever feared. Her good eye turned to me.
So, the wall is down, child.
And it seems the moon has spent a great deal of time and blood making certain that when it finally fell, there would be someone standing in the gap. 300 faces on the walls. 2 men at my side. 1 waking horror on the horizon. And me, Wren of no house, The last frightened drop of the only blood that had ever made the dark afraid, standing in the gap, with everything to lose at last, and absolutely no idea how to hold a wall that 2 centuries of cruelty had failed to keep standing. What I did next, how a laundry girl from a poor pack learns to stand between the world and its ending, and which of the 2 men beside me I reach for when the dark comes, and what the moon's blood is really for, is where it stops being free. To be continued in episode 9. You've reached the end of the free chapters. Episodes 1 to 8 were the door. The whole of Wren's war and her heart continues for Inner Circle members in episode 9 and beyond. That was episode 8 of Rejected Moon. If the moon has you now, the next episode is waiting. Subscribe so you don't lose the trail. The complete book is available on Amazon, and early episodes and bonus chapters are on my Patreon. Links are in the description.
I'm Mia.
Thank you for listening.